Alright, I think we're all set up. Just make sure everything looks okay. And we will pick up where we left off yesterday, which was getting our singleton for the hive mind where it needs to be as far as functionality, kind of evaluating all of our code and seeing what the next design pattern should be. Gave a hint towards the end that maintaining responsibility would probably, as a design pattern, probably help us to make sense of some of the clutter. And let's go and open up the solution and take a look at exactly what that entails. Make sure nothing here is making sounds. All right. So we have our hive mind, and the intention for the hive mind was it would keep track of our world and all items in our world, and it would respond to requests from players. And in return to the player, the result of that request, as well as the updated game state. So if whatever room they're in, if they picked up an item, then that item would be added to their inventory, and they would get back their updated player with that inventory, and then also the updated room content to show that the item is no longer available to be picked up by anybody else. So it's great. And it also made the hive mind a great candidate for a singleton, since we wanted some concurrency in our world where multiple players were ensured to share the experience. That in turn has made the hive mind a great place to just dump functionality. So when we come into the execute, we're seeing that we first check if the game action is a login, and if it is, then we do some special behavior, and then we come into the switch statement, and we check if it's a login again, and we see more special behavior, and then we check to see if it's anything else. And here we've got some pretty similar behavior, so we're really doing the same thing more or less for each one of these, and which makes sense because these are our four main game actions. And then we got some more. And then we have some more ancillary or kind of marginal actions like look at, look around, and get. And then we do some other things. Sorry, hang on. An inopportune time for the Final Fantasy fanfare to go off. So, what's interesting to note about this is we can see that we're already doing some marginal things. We're already diverting from the intended simplicity of just taking in a command and then returning a result. So, while for this one we're going to keep looking at this and keep playing around with it to add in the functionality we need, it's a great red flag point to say we can do this better. And I had mentioned yesterday that a design pattern got us into this mess, so a design pattern should be able to get us out of this mess. And indeed there is one. And it's called the chain of responsibility. But let's go ahead and just take a look at the bug we fixed yesterday, which was here. And we had said that to ensure that the player was populated, we'd add this line of code here. Let's go ahead and take that out. And we'll see that we're following through all of these. So we're not actually returning out until the very end. So we're free to make a little comment. Ensure the game response is properly populated. We'll do that. And another thing that we do, so we have the room content, and we're doing that in various places, but not in every place, right? So we aren't doing it here, and we aren't doing it here. So that's something else we want to set at the very end. So let's go ahead and see how we're getting that. So we have the room key inside of the request. So that makes it easier. And we're declaring the room here. So let's go ahead and take this out. I'm going to place that up here. So we're declaring all our variables kind of in one place. And so now anything within this execute command is going to have access. Oh. Shema says, can you turn on the background sound? Is there background? Is there like a... It might be... I'm sorry, and so I might have tweaked my mic at some point, but the background sound might be the feedback from the game. So if it just sounds like a static or kind of a whirl, that could be it. I think it just comes from having the best mic in the world. But I know there's something else, like if you're hearing some sort of music from a browser or something. If that's the case, then definitely take care of that. Okay, so and ReSharper keys in on the fact that this is now reasonably simple enough to turn into a tertiary operator. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, so while this is technically more concise, I also feel like it's less readable. So if you're not familiar with the tertiary operator, what we're saying here is that we have this statement that we're going to evaluate, true or false. And then we have a little bit of syntax, the question mark. And so it says, just saying, asking, does this statement evaluate to true? Or its expression, does this expression evaluate to true? And if so, then I want response to equal this. If it doesn't, then I want it to equal this. So it is more concise, but like I said, I think it's less readable for our needs than just this. Okay, so now let's keep moving down. We're trying to abstract out our player and our room content from this process. Okay. And we have the room, so let's go back up. Yeah, we have the room, so we should be able to streamline this. And this becomes an unnecessary call to the world. So we just want to do room. And to make this a little clearer, we'll throw that parenthesis on that. So inside of the room, we're getting the game object by the game object key, and then we're casting it to an inventory item. And we want to do the same thing here. We're just going to say room. So So this first part of we're abstracting out things so we can properly identify what's the same, what's different, and kind of hoping to optimize the structure as much as possible. And once we've done that as kind of a first pass, it should validate or invalidate the design pattern or the approach we want to use to clean it up. HMT5 asks, what are you programming? We're doing a tribute to old school multi-user dungeons. And you can find the info on the GitHub page, and some of the brainstorming is in the brainstorm file. And then our approach is to learn design patterns and use them to make the game. We've gotten pretty far. Now we're in what I'm calling the second semester, and we are creating a server and a client and looking at what complications arise from extrapolating out all that responsibility to their appropriate projects and places. Okay, so now that I have the room variable, I can place that there. So, in terms of the chain of responsibility, it's really nice to be able to look at this and carve it up into, like blocks of code. So one thing I want to do is, I kind of want to say not wrap up or clean up or finalize, whatever phrase you want to give to it. I want to have like this final step where before I return the game response, I make sure the player is set, the room content is set, the response is pushed onto the stack, and then I'll return the response. So that's one place. And this will obviously grow in complexity the more code that I throw into this. So it's nice to start looking at it now and saying this is definitely a place that as it grows, I would like it to do so independently of our hive mind. The second area of code is this parsing of the game action, this executing the game action. And this is really all we want the hive mind to do. We're calling the execute command. And so when we call it execute command, we don't want it to be the login, we don't want it to be the authentication, and we don't want it to be the finalize. We want those to be two separate things that happen before and after the hive mind. Because once we're in the hive mind, we want to make reasonable assumptions that the player's been logged in and authenticated. And that'll help us get rid of things like this and also this. But let's make sure that our small little tweaks actually build and we can still play the game. Alright, so my server boots up. And my client boots up. Those are good signs. I type in my player name, and my request is processed and sent back to me. This is also good. And then my world is drawn and rendered. So far, so good. HTM5 asks, what is the benefit of doing this in C# over C++? Ease, I guess. There is definitely a productivity gain in using C# or any other high-level programming language. So there's a compromise made with performance, but the reason why those high-level languages like Java and C# are so popular is because we often favor efficiency over efficiency of our own time over the efficiency of the program. So that's changing though.